We're an open book. Hello, people.
Let's go.
How
are you?
I thought you were going to give me a kiss.
Well, you know what? This thing keeps pivoting toward you.
Yeah.
I think you rigged it that way
I
for
did.
Lee.
My head looks small compared to yours, and it never looks small compared to yours.
If I get back here or there.
Oh, yeah. All right, I got a question for you. We're a week after we had our last chat.
Yeah.
I'm going to get right into football. Jimmy Irsay said, I don't like guaranteed contracts. Is that a ploy? Hello, you. Is that a ploy or a negotiation ploy? Meaning we want to go after Lamar Jackson, but we're going to already put out there our ground rules. Or is that him saying we're not going after Lamar Jackson because, frankly, I don't want him because I don't want to give this contract and I don't want to go against the NFL?
I've never known him to be a ploy guy.
True.
He's been an honest guy. He tells people what he honestly thinks. He's always been a really wealthy guy. The wealthy, they're kind of insulated against it. There's no need for him to lie.
I'm not saying he's lying. But I'm saying, is he, because I don't know the answer. I just give you my opinion. Is he, all right, I had a guest on, Sean Merriman. Sean Merriman, longtime player. I had a guest on our morning show. And he said, I go, what is the big deal about Lamar Jackson not having an agent? And I expected him to say, well, the negotiations, they can get terse, they can get tense, they can get nasty. You don't want to hear some negative thing. He goes, no, the NFL has a way that they are going to do things. The owners want to involve themselves with agents because it helps another industry, and he's going against what the NFL wants to do. So Jimmy Irsay, or any owner, if you're going to go after Lamar Jackson, you've got to balance the doing what the NFL is doing with him and not just, bending over and giving him guaranteed money without an agent, with doing what's best for your team, which is getting an MVP type player on your team. Am I too deep in this?
Well, I got some issues. Number one, an NFL-type player, he was that in 2019.
What do you mean?
He hasn't been that in the last 3 years.
Oh, you're talking about MVP-type player.
An MVP-type player. I don't think, I think that what Chris Ballard was doing was more of that than what Jimmy Irsay was doing when he sat down. I thought Ballard was more strategic in his comments about Jackson.
By saying that we're going to, when there's a really good player, then we're going to have to kick the tire. That's like a Ballard-ism, though.
So he's not giving away, he's not like, we're staying at 4, we're going to take a quarterback, we may do this, we may do that. I think it just gave people some pause as to trying to project what the Colts would do at 4.
All right, so let me ask you. It's another week. There's a lot of BS out there. You have been no to Lamar Jackson.
Yes, no.
You don't have to, though. I just want to say this. You don't have to give up the first-round picks. You can trade for him separate from the offer sheet that where you are bound to give up the pick. You can make a deal now, however you want to make a deal with Lamar Jackson. You don't have to do the deal as per the offer sheet and the franchise tag. You don't have to do that. Right. So you could offer Quentin Nelson and Darius Leonard and the 4 pick, and you got Lamar Jackson. I'd do that in a second.
I think you get an ordinary quarterback who's in regression.
Oh.
I know he's 26. He still runs well, but he's missed 5 games each of the last 2 years. His quarterback rating, his passer rating have all regressed. His yards per attempt, which is a pretty big predictor of offensive efficiency, has been 6.9 and 7.0 the last 2 years. He's 1-3 in the playoffs. He's got a negative touchdown to interception ratio in the postseason. I just don't see, like, he's famous. To me, it's just like Russell Wilson last year, except Russell Wilson's about 6 years older. I think you're doing the same thing. You're paying for past performance. You're not paying for what could be.
I can't argue that. I can't argue the first part of that. You're paying for past performance. There's no question you're paying. But you're also paying for potential here, just like you are when you draft somebody for.
Right.
There's nobody in this draft that you go, all right, look, if he doesn't make it, then everybody's wrong.
Right.
Like there's no Andrew Luck or John Elway or whoever else. There's a bunch of kind of RG3s where when he was coming out of draft, where you think he's really good. You want him to be really good, but there's a big question mark about style, running, all that kind of stuff.
I'm going to ask you an open-ended question where you got to like dig back in your memory, and it's an unfair question, but can you remember the last time that a team willingly gave up a franchise-level quarterback in a trade, the likes of which is being proposed? No, nobody does that.
No, I was going to say, the New England Patriots gave up a franchise quarterback. They gave up Tom Brady.
Right, but not in a trade. They they said goodbye.
Yeah, well, that's what...
We're not going to re-sign you. But here's a guy, he's 43 too. Here's a guy at 26. If he could play...
how do you not think he can play?
Either Lamar Jackson is way out of bounds with what he believes his value to be, or the Ravens are like, you know what, maybe we just start from scratch. We don't want to go $46 million into our pocket, if that's the number, and have an ordinary quarterback in regression. We've seen him maybe not quit on our team.
Yeah.
Maybe that's happened. Maybe it's not. The PCL and all this nonsense.
That makes me mad.
Yeah, I know.
That's a red flag that I have to get solved if I'm the Colts. I have to get that solved.
Right.
I mean, I got it in I cannot bring Russell Wilson here, having said after the doctors did not rule him out, he ruled basically himself out in the frickin' playoffs.
Yeah.
I have to get that. If I don't get that resolved, I want nothing to do with Russell Wilson.
I wonder this too. All right, you've got an agent.
Yep.
Why do you have an agent?
I'm not sure. To handle contracts, to handle field offers, that kind of stuff.
And he's got a really good idea of what your worth is.
Pretty much,
and he can find out. He can call these lunatics at networks and say, "What's my guy worth?"
Yeah, or what's the interest? Here's a job that's open. I wouldn't know who to call. He immediately calls, that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson needs a guy like Drew Rosenhaus, where Drew Rosenhaus says, okay, look, based on where you are in your career, negotiations that I've conducted for years and years and years and years, here's what we're dealing with. Here's the high end. Here's the low end. I'm going to try to get you the high end. I'll be back to you in 2 weeks with where we're at.
That's not what I hear. What I hear out of this, I heard this morning, and it was that Mike Tannenbaum. He said anybody can negotiate the money here. Anybody could do. You and I could do that. He said the reason you need an agent is because you're dealing in 3 areas here. You're dealing with your negotiation, but think about now in the normal world when we grew up, players didn't influence trades.
Right.
Now you are, as a player, are dealing with teams. You're dealing with your team because the team is like, all right, you could question a trade, go get a trade. Well, as a player, all of a sudden, what are you doing? You're sitting around calling who? The Colts? That's where you asked me about my agent. My agent is making those calls, or whoever's agent is making those calls. Russell Wilson has to be the guy that says, hey.
Lamar, I threw Russell in
Lamar, I'm sorry, he's the guy that has to say, okay, Chris Ballard, I want to come to you, but you got to give the Ravens, let's just say for the sake of argument, Quentin Nelson, Darius Leonard in the 4, and then he's got to be the one to go back and hook them out. That's the modern way college or NFL football's done, and that's where you need an agent.
There is something wrong strategically in the brain of somebody like Lamar Jackson where he doesn't think that's valuable enough to pay 3% or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. I think he thought that I'm going to stay with the Ravens, and if I become a free agent, it's going to be offer after offer after offer. And then
I'm just going to be fielding calls.
Yes.
Hello, Lamar here. Oh, well, thank you very much. Good day.
Yes. Yeah. No, too low, 133. No, not enough. What do you want? Yeah. No, and it turns, so all of a sudden, March 2nd, he demands a trade, and they're like, okay, go get a trade.
Let me ask you this. So Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns, the magnate of the truck stop world, he does his deal with Deshaun Watson. Did he do the deal with Deshaun Watson to thumb his nose at the owners and cause them distress? All 31 of them are dealing with this crap. And Lamar Jackson, he wants guaranteed because Deshaun got it and you got a big stinking mess. Was that strategic, or did he act just like the way a billionaire acts? What do you think he was doing?
I don't think it was strategic. I think it was, hey, look, I need a quarterback. We've stunk here forever. We tried it with Mayfield. It ain't going anywhere. I got this fan base. I promised them certain things. I better get somebody in here. Now, what do you want?
Yeah.
And again, I go back to something you said, so I'll throw it back on you. You asked me about when's the last time you saw a quarterback traded like this. I'll go to this. How many times does a quarterback with this guy's skill set and accomplishments in his prime become available? I think that's what a guy like Jimmy Haslam said and went out and did with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That makes total sense.
Because it doesn't happen all. You got to take C.J. Stroud. You got to take a swing. They took a swing with Johnny Manziel and Baker Mayfield. But now you got a proven guy in his prime, and there's baggage, and you got to figure out the baggage part of it, right?
The baggage part for Watson was significant. There wouldn't seem to be baggage with Lamar Jackson, but because of his behavior through all of this, you got to think that there is, right? I mean, you evaluate all that, and you're like, okay, we're dealing with a guy, no agent. We're dealing with a guy who didn't play the last 5 regular season games, didn't play in the playoffs, says he's got like an 85% this or that of the PCL. I don't know how to deal with this kind of NFL player. It's just easier for me to go through the draft. To hell with this guy. I don't think there's collusion. People keep talking about collusion. I don't think NFL owners collude. I heard Max Kellerman say this was like Andre Dawson in '87. Oh, this is nothing like Andre Dawson in '87.
No, I got a text after I tweeted out Colts go get Lamar Jackson or whatever from somebody, and I don't respect very many people in the media, but I respect this person immensely when dealing with the NFL media. And I got the text that said, hey, Dan, be careful what you wish for. Lamar Jackson is not what you think he is. Which I said, hey, you got to call me. And the person did, but I was on a flight and I haven't been able to connect. But I was thinking about it because I had forgotten about that PCL thing. That hangs on. Hey, look, man, if you're not going to play in the playoffs, you can say, like today he said, what did he say? He said, well, my focus has been on the Super Bowl since 2018, which I guess is when he came in the league. And I'm like, really? Well, if it really was, then your dumbass would be playing in the freaking playoffs.
Yeah, I beg to differ.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you're hurt. I understand it's a long season. You're hurt. It's Thursday night. You're in Buffalo. You don't want to play cool. But the playoffs? Yeah. Kiss my ass. You got to play in that one.
And that's why you want an agent too. Maybe the agent puts that crap out there and you don't take the heat for it. You say, you know what, Drew, he just says stuff. I'm ready to go.
Right.
And you save face.
Yeah, because I thought that was bad. So bottom line, as we sit here a couple weeks out for the draft, I still want Russell. I still want Lamar Jackson because I'm not shot in the backside with these other guys. I'm not. And look, God dang it. At some point, don't the Colts have to do something to make themselves interesting, relevant, whatever the word is?
That's a great question, and a great question for Ballard because Ballard's leadership has been relentlessly tedious.
You said
right? We got the 6th overall pick. I'm going to go out and get the best left guard in the history of the NFL.
What you say? You said last week. I'll tell you this: we can get the bottom of the roster figured out.
Yeah, that's what he does.
I can't.
You go out, Isaiah McKenzie.
Yeah.
What the hell is he? For God's sake.
A kicker, fine. I know.
Right.
Here's the deal with a kicker. You bitch until he misses one, and then you really bitch. You bitch until he makes one, and you're like, great move to get the kicker. So glad we got him.
But it's the cherry on top of the sundae.
Yes.
And right now we got a maraschino cherry sitting in a bowl all by itself. There's no ice cream. There's no chocolate sauce. No sprinkles, no bananas, no nothing. It's just the cherry.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt Gay, the kicker position is not going to lose this game, which right now looks like 6-11 instead of 4-13.
I feel like when you come to the Colts, it's you're going to lose this games, Matt Gay. I just feel like it's what's going to happen. Like, think about what's happened to guys. Phillip Rivers, I said, okay, I don't want to come back. I'm leaving because they offered him apparently to come back.
Right.
Carson Wentz comes here and his career is over. He can't function. He's over at Traders Point Church. Great guy, but he goes to Washington and it's like, no, sorry, we're going to start old Sam Howell next year. And seriously, what the f is that?
Yeah.
It's where people come to die.
Yeah.
Who am I missing? Oh, the guy this year. Ryan. Dead man.
He's never going to play again.
No!
I still got football left in me.
I know you do.
Okay. You go somewhere.
Yeah. Are you shitting me? That guy?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You can't be the place where people go to die. And if I'm a quarterback, this is where if I was Russell Wilson, I'd do some thinking. I'd be like,
Lamar Jackson.
Oh, God dang it, Lamar Jackson. This is a feeble brain. If I'm Lamar Jackson, I'm saying, who the hell am I throwing it to?
Yeah.
Where are my weapons? Yeah. How am I going to win? Yeah, Nick Foles, another one. Good job, pecan pies. Yeah, Nick Foles came to die. Sam Ehlinger came to make a little money, I guess.
$1 million. $1 million is kind of good money. For me and you, I like $1 million. For those guys, it's good money.
You see $1 million on a contract, and I always go, man, what would I have to do to? I'd have to start hooking. I'd have to start getting on the pole, doing some dancing to get $1 million. Right. People are like, well, I would have thought Matt Ryan would have done better. I saw an article that I think Kiefer wrote in the Atlantic or the Athletic, and it was after like the first practice or two last year, Ballard's sitting there telling us, well, it took me 1 hour and I figured out this is the guy.
Yeah.
He's great. Really? It took me 1 hour, at least on the field, to go, what'd you do? What did you do? What?
He was really ordinary. Like, you could see it in the workouts. He was an ordinary guy. I
said this when I watched it. I'm gonna ask you what you saw, but here's what I saw. I thought, okay, he moves better than I thought.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I thought, because here's a 90-year-old guy, and I remember watching Phillip Rivers, who had felt like had to throw a ball with his entire right side of his body. I'm like, all right, I don't know if this guy can play, but he moves better.
Yeah.
What was that place? Grand Park. What'd you see?
I saw that I kept grading him against Rivers because I was stupid enough to believe that it was the same kind of signing and would have the same result, and that Rivers looked like he couldn't play dead.
No.
And somehow he goes 11-5. You go to the playoffs. You take the Bills deep into the game, just can't get over the hump with 2.5 minutes left. And I thought that Ryan was going to be the same kind of thing. And it
catastrophe.
Yeah, it was awful. I thought Foles was throwing a good ball. I was stunned when they went with Ehlinger as a backup instead of Foles.
Do you think Jimmy Irsay tanked by doing that? I'd be curious. We got about 80 people on this. You guys think he tanked? Do you think he tanked? Did Jimmy Irsay tank? This is an interactive show.
I don't know.
If not, why Ehlinger? You paid good money for Foles.
Yeah.
You know what Foles can bring to a team. You lived it. You saw it. The whole country saw it when he took the Eagles to the Super Bowl. And all of a sudden, you're like, nah, we paid him good money. We said he's the best backup in the league. But when it came time to play the backup, they went to the Ehlinger.
Yeah, and you wonder how much Jimmy's going to stick his nose in the draft process at 4. If Ballard wants to trade back, people keep saying things like Hendon Hooker. He's the guy. Okay, well, that's not a bad guy, but how do you engineer that?
People definitely think it tanked, by the way.
Do they really?
Everybody. Damn right it was a tank.
Conspiracy theorists, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And I don't blame you. It's more fun to think that way. And that this is what's happening.
So go ahead. Continue about Hendon Hooker.
That where do you fall back to in order to guarantee you get him? Because if you don't get him, then you're screwed.
Yeah.
You got nothing. You're going to go get Tanner McKee.
If I want Hendon Hooker, I'm drafting Hendon Hooker 4th. And I'm listening to all the bullshit from people. And I'm saying, look, say whatever you like. This was my guy. I saw today, Hendon Hooker is what? He went to the Senior Bowl, and even though he couldn't play, he was there with his teammates, and he was teaching them the offense. And Hendon Hooker was on the sideline of the Orange Bowl, and he was coaching, and okay, blah, 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 blah. Hey, that's great. And he's a big, strong kid. And if I want him, I don't give a rat's. If I want him and Levis is there or Richardson's there, I'm taking him. At some point, you got to have a conviction about yourself. that your experience says this is the guy over these other guys. I don't give a rat's where value pick and all that horse bleed.
Yeah.
That's all crap.
No,
go ahead.
And where I learned that was Polian with Edgerrin James. Because I thought, well, look at this. They're crazy. They could have traded back. If they had traded, they had guys lined up behind them, 2 teams lined up behind them when they took Edgerrin James, who didn't have a need for a running back.
Yeah.
It's like you could have traded 3 spots back and still gotten him and gotten us. You can't think that way. That's craziness.
That's crazy.
And that's, you know what? This is kind of interesting. That we grade general managers' work against the early part of the Bill Polian era. Bill Polian taught us a lot about being a general manager of an NFL team. He was on your show a bunch, wrote that book, he came around, and you could kind of pick his brain about things. And that, to me, I've always thought that it was really hard for an Indiana coach because Indiana fans think that they learned everything there is to know about basketball by watching Bob Knight coach. And that's a fallacy. But we think the same way with the Colts and general managers because we saw the way Bill Polian did it and Chris Ballard in doing it that way.
I don't disagree. And look, I think everybody that's on this screen, you, me, everybody, we're Colts fans. We spent 21 and a half minutes talking about the Colts here on a show that isn't all that long. I think we don't give a rat's ass how you build it, just win.
Yeah, win some.
That's why I sit there and I go, well, he's a great GM because he got cap space and he drafted. I go, who the hell is he drafted? And why do I care about cap space? I always say, Kent, you're walking out of Lucas Oil and you just had your brains beat out, or you're watching on TV and it was 30-0, and it ends up you lose a 33-point lead. And you're like, you know what? That son of a gun got us cap space.
We got $40 million to go get a left tackle for next year. Yeah, I'm with you.
Just win, baby, Joe Jackson. Look, is there any league where it's more just win, baby?
No, and every win or loss is really multiplied because you play what 20% of the games of an NBA schedule and 10% of the games of a Major League Baseball schedule. Yeah. Every win is either a 10-game winning streak or a 10-game losing streak. It's unbelievable.
And that's it. And that's why I've said I don't care who you draft. I don't care. Look, if you screwed up Quincy Wilson or you got an all-pro in Quentin Nelson, freaking great.
Here's what I don't get. Here's another Colts thing. So Ballard's in Arizona for the NFL annual meeting. And he's talking to the media and he said, we had offers for Ryan Kelly and for Kenny Moore. And no, these guys are good Colts. What defines a good Colt? What is that? You went 4-12-1 with these guys not playing good football, and Kenny Moore is an ill fit for Gus Bradley's scheme. Why is this guy still a Colt? Why didn't you go get something for him and get out from under that salary? I don't get it. Like there's some kind of legacy clause in these contracts? I don't understand.
Horseshoe guys.
Yeah, horseshoe guys.
You don't have to change much to go from horseshoe to horseshoe. I'm serious. I mean, I think we all bought into when they were winning. Yeah. Good guys, Saturday a good guy, Payton a good guy.
If they're winning 12 games a year.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison, whether you knew he was a good guy, bad guy, it doesn't matter. He didn't say nothing. He just went about his job. Reggie Wayne was a likable guy. Dallas Clark was So we got all right, so they get the residual effect of that. And Ballard has hung on to that like grim freaking death, man.
That's all he's got.
That's all he's got.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's all he's got. It's like horseshoe guy. Good guys, Look, let me tell you something. Ryan Kelly, God love you. You've been through a lot. We've paid you a lot, but we got a chance to let you go. We're letting you go. Danny,
there's got to be a consequence.
We
talk about it all the time.
You can't go 4-13, whatever, 14, 15, 27, 4-13, whatever, and just all of a sudden show up the next year with a kicker, a 40-catch, 400-yard wide receiver, and everybody else thinking that they're secure.
Yeah,
you cannot do that.
Yeah, and that gets back to Jim Irsay talking about guaranteed contracts. Because when you guarantee a contract, you kind of you legislate a certain amount of apathy. And that's just the way it is because you know you're going to make your money.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. So you got Ryan Kelly. Ryan Kelly makes $19 million, okay? It's kind of a guaranteed contract. If Ryan Kelly in a normal world made what normal guys think is between 12 and 15, he's getting a minimum of $4 million extra a year. So he gets an extra, if you follow me here, he gets an extra million.
Yeah.
He gets an extra year. At 5 years, okay, with this contract, at $4 extra million gets him an extra year, an extra $20 million. So it's a bit of a guaranteed contract because you're overpaying what the market would have paid him.
Right.
That's the problem.
Great point.
And I'll go back to this. And then we can move on to something else.
That's a clever agent.
Damn right it is. So now the Colts used to be, and Polian started this and Grigson did it. I've said it on this show every time we've done it. They did not give Andrew Luck an extension until his 5th year when they had to give him an extension. They didn't give it to him.
Right.
And now all of a sudden they're throwing extensions like it's freaking, I don't know, like what are you doing?
The only reason to do that is that if you don't, you're going to face like a catastrophic circumstance. You've already got the catastrophe. The plane's already crashed. Full flaps. But, we're on the ground and it's burning. Why are you...
Oh.
I don't understand.
I don't get it. I mean, we're trying to keep people happy.
And we're not. You like Chris Ballard as a guy.
Fine. Yeah, really.
I like Chris Ballard. I got nothing but... People always say hater. Right. You hate that. I don't hate anybody. I like people. You've known me a long time. I hate far fewer people today than I used to. That you can attest to. But I want them to do well. I want Ballard to make the right decision, and the right decision is right out there for him, and he won't do it.
No. And, all right, what's the right decision?
You go get Anthony Richardson.
You love Anthony
And you
Richardson.
do it because he's got the highest. I don't care if the guy flames out. You're not going to go to a Super Bowl unless you have one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the AFC, and that's the guy who projects to possibly ascend to that height.
You don't think, this is a yes or no question.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson doesn't have what you just did with this ascension here. You don't think that Lamar Jackson can ascend to one of the 5 best quarterbacks that get you to the Super Bowl faster or better than what Anthony Richardson can?
I think if we get a time machine and we go back to 2019, I think you can get that done. I don't think you do it in 2023. I don't think that's who he is or what he does. I think his head's pivoted. I don't know the guy, but he seems like a guy who is now Lamar Jackson Incorporated instead of Lamar Jackson quarterback.
That's a great, when you become Inc.
When
you become .com.
And not to send this off in another direction, but I heard it on your show with Miles Turner when he said, and I liked it when I heard it, but I didn't like it eventually. He said, what I want to make enough money to be the CEO of my own company. And I thought, boy, that's a well put together 19-year-old. And then I thought about it for a while, and I saw the way he plays, and I thought, no, wait a minute.
No.
I want a killer, I want a baller, I want Draymond Green. I don't want Miles Turner.
This is where guys are just stupid. You have the money to be a CEO.
Yeah.
Regardless of if you say you want to be a CEO. So you just signed me to $100 million. I wanted you to look right at you, Pacer fans. I got to tell you something. I'm going to work so hard. I'm going to become the best, toughest. I'm going to get on that block. I'm going to average double-digit. Not I'm going to be a CEO. Well, no shit, Sherlock. You're CEO of Miles Turner. Hell, I'm the CEO of Dan Doggage Enterprises. Who gives a rat's? Seriously. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's not processing correct. We're winning a banner. Or I'll tell you what, I will die in my pursuit to win banners for this city. Why wouldn't you say that?
That's all you say.
It doesn't matter whether you believe it.
No, and everybody's going to go, oh man, this is like Reggie. He's going to spend his whole career here. I can't wait. You get it for us, Reg 2 or whatever. Okay. But you can still go be the CEO?
Yeah, right.
The level, I hear, God dang it. I've tried to educate you over 14 years, people. I've tried to. I do like Ballard as a guy, but I have lost respect for him as a GM, and I can't, when I lose respect for somebody or something, I can't stop. Like people are saying, will you shut up about the Indy Star? I can't stop. Will you shut up about Ballard? I can't stop. If you hear something that I continually lose my mind on, it's because I've lost respect and I just can't. It's a terrible way to go through life, but it's my way. That's it.
And then that's all we can ask of you is to just be true to who you are.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I had an interesting conversation today. People are
Yeah.
talking about Arch Manning.
Yeah.
Okay, so my friend, my college roommate, has been the longest running anchor down there in Austin, Texas, the NBC station, Roger Wallace. He's the football analyst on the radio. So Roger was on my earlier show today. Plug 9 to 11, don't at me, Outkick Network. And I'm like, all right, what's going to happen here between Arch Manning and this guy Quinn Ewers? He goes, well, it's interesting. He goes, Arch Manning came to compete. Ewers has gotten better, but there's a third guy in this. There's like a stud freaking Vince Young looking strong man among boys in the mix too. So these guys here are saying, hey, look, tank for Arch. He may not play for 2 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Football's a mother, man. Yeah. Football, I will bet anybody anything that there's a better quarterback in his class coming out than Arch Manning.
How many guys wind up transferring?
Right.
Like the huge 5-star guy shows up at Georgia. Those guys, Eason was one of those
couldn't
guys.
Couldn't beat out Jake Fromm with the hot mom.
Right.
All right, so what's his name? Jordan Sparks?
Yeah. I like him.
I do too.
No, Payton Sparks.
Oh, Jordan
Sparks
singer.
was on, yeah. American.
All right, so Jake, what? What's his name? Payton. Walter Payton Sparks transfers from Ball State to Indiana. All right, I like him. I saw him play a number of times. I think, here's what I want to tell Indiana fans, and you and I have talked about this. Stop with the whole we lose everybody. It doesn't matter if you lose everybody. Tamar Slayer, Bates, or whatever his name is, see ya. Lomecomb, see ya. Miller Kopp, see ya. I hate to say this, Jackson Davis, see you, right? Because you're going to revamp this roster, and it's not going to be, well, now it's Anthony Leal's turn. No, you're going to get guys.
Right.
So get Indiana fans, I know you're getting this like, well, you know, when Whitman finally became a junior, he was first team all Big Ten, and that's what I see. That's not the way this goes. You're going to see transfer after transfer, and it started today with the Sparks kid.
And I like him.
Yeah.
I watched Ball State quite a bit. He seems like a slightly less athletic version of Race Thompson.
Better skill.
Big guy.
Better touch.
Is it? Does he? Okay,
better touch.
good.
Much better.
Good offensive rebounder. I know that. I saw him do that.
He's a post play. Like, he is a big-assed guy that will go and learn and go on the block and get guys in foul trouble and maneuver around. He's pretty good. I don't know. He's not Trace Jackson Davis, but he's better than anybody they have. Well, I like that Renault kid. I think that Renault kid's pretty good.
You know, here's kind of a parallel to what you're talking about, and that's in business. If you lose somebody, like when we worked in radio, when somebody left, salespeople would lose their minds. What are we going to do without this person? And I'd say, it's my job to go get better.
Yeah.
This isn't a loss. This is an upgrade. We're going to upgrade because these people left or this person left. That's the way on the interior you look at this stuff. Fans see a net deficit. Coaches, managers, they see net gain, an opportunity.
Yeah, and then sometimes what happens is you do upgrade. And then sometimes what happens is you go, oh man, that guy was really good. He did a lot of things and it's just, and you know, you just build it up. But you know, one of the things that you got to get out of your mind is the old way of doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what I would do if I was actually thinking about this. I was talking to Andrew the other day about it. Andrew coaches at Illinois State, and I was thinking, you know, if I was a really good high school player, not a great, but let's say Anthony Lill, I might, if I really wanted to maximize my career, I might okay, I'm going to go to Ball State, or I'm going to go to Bowling Green, or I'm going to go there. I'm going to put up some numbers.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to sign a big NIL deal, and I'm going to jump all these guys at Indiana, or or at North Carolina, or hell, North Carolina took Alec Pierce's brother, who played at frickin' William and Mary.
Yeah.
And Alec Pierce, a nice kid, and the kid's a great kid, but Roy Williams, when I did their game, said, I'll never take another one at 50 or senior. It's crazy. But if you're a guy like Leo, you're sitting there going through all these workouts, and I use Leo, or you can use any of those bench guys. CJ, is it JC? Gunn. It's probably going to happen to him.
Yeah.
Because they're recruiting a guy from Harvard. It's just not the same where you come in and you're going to wait your opportunity. The opportunity may never come for you because of the NIL and because of the transfer portal.
You don't advance through survival.
Not anymore.
Ever. Yeah.
You know how you advance? Through movement.
Yeah.
And, okay, so I was Dusty May. Dusty May today was talking about how his players are being recruited by middlemen right now and have been through the entire NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, the NIL sucks. I mean, from a coaching standpoint.
But so's he. He's getting calls.
He's getting calls. Good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but I like the NIL. I like the transfer, except when I hear that and I'm like,
yeah.
All right.
There's an underbelly to it that I don't like at all, that sort of ruins the experience, I think, to an extent. But when you see all the wealth that's being generated, and you see a guy like, what's his name down at Miami, who's writing, like Nigel Pack, like making $400,000 a year to do some kind of, I don't get it. I don't know why. Maybe that's the way Miami works. But is that, what would you have done? What would I have done with $400,000?
I don't know.
When we were 21 years old, we were scraping together enough money to go to the peanut barrel and drink $1.50 pitchers.
I remember.
And that was fun.
I remember walking up going, $5 cover. Oh, hell.
Doctor Bob my ass.
Jeez, are you
I'm
crazy?
coming back on Wednesday when it's $3. It's crazy.
I don't know, but John Ruiz, if you think about what's happened in Miami, he got banged for his buck because those two girls, Cavendish sisters, they go to the Elite Eight, and now Miami's in the Final Four. So if you're going to say, all right, who used the system the best? Jim Larinaga, and this is literal, Jim Larinaga thought he was going to jail. When that Southern District of New York trial came, Seth Greenberg and he are great friends. I go, how's Larinaga doing? He goes, Dan, he thinks he's going to jail. He's a mess. He's like lost weight. And fast forward, that thing gets cleared up. He didn't do anything wrong, but he thought, I'm going to be dragged through here. His team was named and he was named, but ultimately he didn't do anything. But all right, now he's in the Final Four. Nigel Pack is a guy that, all right, I think he lives right over here across the way. Yeah, okay, now he's making $500,000. Somebody just put up there that Eric Hunter was making $350,000 at Butler. Butler's got change coming for that move. They got change. I'm just saying. Jackson Davis are saying $850. I don't know, but to your point, I don't know what I would do. Like, think about Leo, and I keep using him, and I
yeah.
Which is an unbelievable gesture.
Yeah.
Great.
Insane, but wonderful.
Crazy.
What are you thinking, kid?
What is awesome, but man, so guys are making, even guys that aren't playing that much, are making pretty good coinage here.
And then they're able to do things like, I know that Sarah Scalia from the women's team, she's going to do a shooting clinic in Bloomington for 4th to 8th graders. And it's going to be like $50. And so she gets to put some money in her pocket. And you kind of monetize her brand in that way while doing good stuff for the community. There's that.
But that's not what John Ruiz was doing.
No.
John Ruiz was saying, I want to compete.
No, that's pure pride.
It is. And so now they're going to try to put guardrails in. Hey, look, I don't know.
When was the last time that worked out for anybody's betterment?
Dan, Dan Wetzel?
Yeah.
So Dan was texting me over the weekend. He goes, when's the last time over-regulation worked in anything?
Yeah, right. Let's put Congress in charge of it. They'll fix everything.
Do you think, all right, my report on Zach Edey transferring yesterday, do you think that's going to happen? Do you think I'm going to be accurate on that one?
You know what? You were just like 3 years early on Brom. You know, you hit that one out of the park. People just didn't see it coming.
Can I tell you what happened yesterday? So yesterday, the show's over. I do it over here. I go upstairs and I'm kind of eating, and I do this thing where I see somebody like, you know, Kiefer or one of these guys announcing something, and I use it as my own. And I say, my sources say, just to be a jag, right? Sometimes you got to humor yourself. Sometimes you've got to humor. So I saw this thing, and I didn't really...
This, of course, you know, drives them nuts, and that's why you do it. That every time I walk into the Colts media room, this is a source of conversation. So
I saw Jeff Brazzello, and here's how stupid I am. This is how incredibly stupid I am. The other day I was driving, and we may have even talked about it on this show. I was driving, I was listening to college sports on Channel 84, and they had somebody, an NIL like guru, and they were talking about Edie, and they said, you know, he's a foreign kid, so he can't make as much money. He's got whatever, the work visa, the student visa, all this stuff. And they were kind of explaining it, and I just had a conversation with Lee about it. So yesterday, this is how dumb I am. I see the tweet from this fake Jeff Brazzello account, and it says he wants to go get a massive, and I just say, okay, my sources tell me, right, just to be a jag. And I put it out, and of course, Edie comes back and he says, well, your sources is wrong, and which blows the whole thing up.
Yeah,
New York Post. But I thought about it, like, how stupid are you? You knew that it was false based on what you knew, meaning I knew he could not go somewhere for Edie cannot go somewhere for a huge NIL deal.
Yeah.
I mean, he can go somewhere. Anybody can go anywhere, and he can get an NIL deal. But there's limits on him as a foreign kid. So it blows up. People are, you're the worst human being alive. And I'm like, I'm the worst human being alive.
They're going to forget it in 48 hours. But my God, that 3.7 million impressions.
It's unbelievable.
Those last.
Honest to God, I've never had a tweet with 3.7 million.
That's a lot.
And I think Edie's tweet had like 4.5 or something. But that's how stupid. And then my wife's like, you got something going on Twitter? I go, yeah, I think so. I would send her like, hey, this is from the New York Post. Edie dunks on Doc. You know, okay, the New York Post. What the?
That when that happens, and all of a sudden your notifications start like rolling, you're like, oh, Jesus, what'd I do? You know,
I always get nervous about certain things. I didn't even get nervous about that when I just put it out, and then, like, to your point, boom, 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 boom. I'm like, ooh.
What'd I do?
All right, so let me go to Purdue. Let me ask you about Purdue. So Purdue is sitting there with a lifetime in their minds, because 3 years is a lifetime in college basketball, a lifetime of horrific losses.
Yeah.
And they, though, are the one program where you elevate through. They're the ones, okay, Mason Gillis.
They actually develop guys.
They do. Do you stop that, or have they always tried to stop that, but they haven't got the right guys? Because they were trying to get Tyrese Hunter. They were trying hard, the kid that was at Texas. They were trying hard on him. There was a connection. There was another kid, really good player, they tried on. They ended up with David Jenkins.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you're Purdue, like Indiana's going to do it. Indiana's going to get in the portal, if you were here last year, you better be, maybe Caleb Banks or Renault or Robert Johnson, Xavier Johnson. But Purdue has a choice to make because they got basically everybody back.
Yeah. So who would want to go? Like what kind of a nut? Like, you want playing time. You want an opportunity to get in and compete.
You know what a fan says? There. Well, if I was a really quick guard, I would really. If I'm a really quick guard, okay, maybe I have a spot, but the two starting guards were freshmen.
Yeah, right.
And they won the Big Ten. And
by
they won the
Big
Big Yes. And so that's what you look at as a player. You go, all right, let me see this roster here. Let me see, okay, wait a second. I'm in my 5th year.
Yeah.
I got to play. Like, or I'm in my 2nd year, 3rd year, and I'm going to get a big NIL deal, I guess. I don't know.
Bloomington's a lovely town. And so I'm not saying anything bad about Bloomington. I love Bloomington. Bloomington and West Lafayette are similar, I think, in that they are not the sexiest outposts in the history of college athletics.
Right.
To say, I've got a 5th year, and I'm going to rock that 5th year. Let's see, where can I go? I'm going to West Lafayette, Indiana. That doesn't happen. There's nobody who thinks like that. Like, and I'm not talking about the weather. It's just kind of a dark, cloudy, dank place where it rains all the time.
I don't think anybody thinks about the weather.
They don't.
I didn't. I don't know.
Beach? You get to go to a place with a beach.
All right, Andrew's story is different because he was looking for a place, and this was going to get a scholarship to Ohio State, so he doesn't count.
Columbus is nice.
Oh, stop it. He didn't even, I'm not even sure the boy was on campus. But, see, to me, I think Purdue would be an immensely attractive place to play as a basketball player because the way they have it set up, you don't have to go to class on campus. You can do it all online. You got a great facility. You got unbelievable fans. Every game's on national TV. It's kind of funny. I mean, kids that bitch about playing college basketball before you came over, I happened to be watching the G League playoffs.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
They had a gym that was smaller than Zionsville's gym.
Yeah.
Smaller than, I haven't been in a whole lot of, obviously Lawrence North and those big gyms. It wasn't near that. Maybe, I don't know, like Buffs. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sitting there going, wow, that guy was a first-round pick. He left after his freshman year. He's playing in this? Better be making a lot of money. Your contract better be NBA money.
Yeah.
Because college is pretty good. And playing at Purdue or Indiana, that's pretty good stuff.
And like FAU has a gym that's like 2,500. That's it.
Dusty May signed a contract before seeing it, and he wanted to get out of it.
I've read that.
Did you read that?
Yeah. Well, everybody does that, don't they? Anytime you take a job,
dude,
I'm like, yes, thank you. And then I'm in the car on the way home. I'm like, oh my God, what did I just say yes to? And then I really need Julie. I need Julie as my agent to like talk me off the ledge.
I did that at Bowling Green. I'm like, what? Well, I didn't even look at the gym. I don't even know what the locker room looks like. All right, let's go. Final 4 picks. What do you think is going to happen?
Oh, wow. You know what? They're all so similar. They defend really well, and they defend hard. I think it's going to be UConn. I think UConn plays really good defense. I think Hurley's a really good coach. But you got nothing but good coaches. Like, you got good coaches at all 4. They're not those heralded guys. But I like Jim Larinaga a lot. I like Dusty May a lot. Hurley's terrific. I'm going to say UConn.
I'm going to say UConn's going to win too. I just think they're the best team right now. You know, it's interesting. What were they, like 15-2, something like that. Got the number 1 in the country, lost 5 of their last 7, or 5 of 7. And then you go and win a bunch more. And you watch them play and you're like, how the hell did they lose 5 out of 7?
Yeah, right.
But leagues are tough. I'll say this. Dusty May's team, when they went, quote, in the mud with Tennessee and just fought him tooth and nail. I had him on my show Monday, and he was great. I'm like, Dusty, your team can play any way. He goes, we don't have the biggest, physically strongest guys, but we got tough guys that have unbelievable pride. And when they read about how physical Tennessee was, they said, screw this. And as the game went on, they decided to get more physical. And he also said it's the same thing right now. Their whole team was watching ESPN, I guess, Sunday night. And he said all these guys on ESPN was talking about how physical San Diego State is, and they don't know if Florida Atlantic can handle it. And I'm thinking, he goes.
Did you know him? Did you know?
I think I hired him. Yeah, as a manager. I think I was,
Dusty.
Dusty. Who are you asking?
At San Diego State.
Yeah, I knew Dutcher well. In fact, before the tournament, they asked me who your top 5, before the Sweet 16, who your top 5 coaches in the Sweet 16. And I put Dutcher in there because those of you that remember, Steve Fisher took over and won a national championship in '89. Yeah. And then it all went south because the idiots with the Fab Five, and then Fisher gets fired. Fisher then goes to San Diego State. Dutcher was his longtime assistant, and they established not only wins. Remember, 2020, they were 30-2.
Yeah.
They were going to get a number 1 seed. They established a culture that Indiana is still trying to find. Swear to God, Indiana's trying to, what are we? They went out there and they established a defensive culture. I did one of their games against Cincinnati, and I think Kawhi Leonard was there, and I'm like, whoa, holy cow.
Let me ask you about Indiana doing that.
Yeah.
Because they can't, and they haven't.
Right.
How do you do it? Do you like lay waste to what's there now and go recruit the right types of kids, the tough hard asses, or what do you do?
This is where I was disappointed this year in Indiana. I thought Indiana showed a pretty good toughness. Like Mike was really talking about defense, and
Yeah.
And I felt like Indiana had that at times. But also, I can remember a Michigan State game when Archie was the coach, and they did it there. They did it once in a while. It's not a culture yet. And the easy answer is to say, give Woodson more time. It's only his second year. He's cleaning out the closet.
God damn, we've said that for
That's why I can't.
Generation.
That's why coaches establish in their first year a lot. Like guys win when if you take over a program that was, I don't know, 2 in a lifetime. Okay, you're not going to win your first year. If you take over a program, I took over Bowling Green. In theory, there was like 4 of the top 7 back. All right, but the guys that they lost was the number 2 pick in the draft, Antonio Daniels.
Yeah.
The other guy they lost was the coach's son, a 4-year starter, and then the third guy that I had back, Anthony Stacey, got hurt and was out for the year. So we didn't win the first year. So in theory, but what Woodson, I think, where I haven't liked what he's done is when you watch Indiana, game after game after game, you don't see an unfailing will and an unfailing toughness. When you see UConn, you're going to see that, and nobody, and I'm telling you now, nobody in college basketball, MFs, insane, honest players like Danny Hurley, but none of them quit. So you know what that is? They recruited the right guys.
Yeah.
None of them quit. Like, he's insane, Kent.
Is he?
Total, like, freaking, and he gets it honest. His dad was insane. I remember going to the White Hawk Bingo Hall in Jersey City in the stall taking a dump, and it was right off of the court, and they had a no out of bounds where the ball came in, and I'm looking underneath, and guys are diving on the floor as I'm on the crap. So, it's the kid from Gary, Janelle Davis,
yeah.
Is he tough?
You have to require toughness. And you have to penalize those who don't display
and you got to recruit.
Right? And what I've always seen at Indiana is they just allow stuff. Like if somebody's playing soft, and we can see it, they don't come sit down.
No.
They get to go play some more. And I don't understand that. And that gets back to Knight because he was always...
Oh, God.
Like you knew, okay, that guy's coming out right now. You saw it.
I mean, with me, I remember when I was coming out, I'd go down the end of the bench. Well, that's it for me for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? I mean, right. you just,
or you'd see a guy like an Anthony Leal.
He'd get a chance.
He's in there.
Yes.
And you'd say, what the hell's he doing
yes.
in the game? And he'd ball out.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the thing that has been missing. That's one of the things. But the ability to say, you sit, your opportunity, let's go, takes balls as a coach, particularly now in the NIL world.
Yeah.
Because the NIL world, you're paying these guys to come in here and play, man. No, you could not be more right. I remember listening, I think it was in 1981. I'd have to go back and look. I think it was against Purdue. And all of a sudden, they got Isaiah, right? And Chuck Franz is in the game.
Yeah.
And he's playing his bag off, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, that's what Indiana's supposed to be.
Yeah.
When's the last time you saw on the sideline, all you guys that are out there, you're Indiana fans, when's the last time you did what Kent did? All right, last time you did what Kent did. Saw a guy play like a pussy and go, he's coming out. And he did come out. When's the last time? Crean maybe? But he was just kind of whack.
Crean always had like his set rotation, and he stuck with that through come hell or high water.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether Davis, I was just confused by Davis. He confused me.
Remember that. Samson would, I'm trying to think if Samson did that. He would be a threat to, and usually I insert joke here, but I'm not, because I'm just trying to think, was it a thing where.
Archie never did.
No, Archie never did.
And I thought he would.
I did
thought
too.
He was going to be that guy.
His dad will.
Yeah,
his dad's a badass coach.
Yeah.
But I'm just telling you, and that's a big deal at Indiana. Like Anthony, we've said way too much about him, right? Because I don't know another guy on the bench. I guess Duncombe, but he's leaving. Who else was on? Oh, I'll give you.
Caleb Banks.
I'll give you Caleb Banks. He came in the game I was at against Ohio State. God, was he good.
Yeah.
I'll give you another one. That's C.J. Gunn. He can shoot the ball. Everybody says, well, we don't have shooters. Well, there's a guy who came out of Lawrence Central or Lawrence North. He shoot the freaking ball. All right, you're not going. You're not playing. Get your ass in there. It drives me nuts because that is what Indiana's supposed to be.
Yep.
That's a great point by you. God, you're good.
It had to happen eventually. It's the big brain.
Yeah, there's a lot.
That's
Hey, how
what it
about
is.
us? We got a lot of people on today. 145.
Let me, I want to talk, because you were at Indiana for 17 years, right? 17 years? The 17 really good years with
Okay,
Gene
years.
Keady.
Yeah.
I mean, he was really, really good.
Yeah.
Gene Keady's not getting in the Basketball Hall of Fame again, and it's horse shit. How good a coach was he, and what made him a good coach?
Gene Keady did a number of things really well. His teams were going to be tough. He was going to demand. You talk about sitting a guy out. Now, later in his career, he went to more of a rotation. But let me also talk to you about Gene Keady as a developer of himself. Like when Gene Keady came in, when I played against him his first couple of years, they ran all these sets: cross screen, down screen, double down, America's play, back screen, come off a down, all these different plays. And then Gene Keady, he told me this, he started studying Indiana. He started studying our motion. And he developed himself. He developed his motion offense that became way better than ours. His motion offense dictated who was going to get the shot. Our motion offense assumed Whitman, Kitchell, Alford, Chaney, name it, was going to get the shot.
Yeah.
He was more choreographed and is brilliant. Seriously, is brilliant. He really he evolved as a coach. He always tough, always going to guard, always going to compete, never going to quit. He would bench a guy. He would develop guys. He loved on guys. He was tough on them, but they liked him. He would have a maker's mark. They'd come to his house. He might have a maker's. Knight would throw a freaking but that's not even fair to Knight. But he really developed himself.
Yeah.
And then, they want, and you can't, people don't want to hear this, but they cheated. They went on probation. Frank Kendrick had to go from being an assistant coach to being a cook in the student union. Look it up. It's a true story. So they went on probation because of stupid stuff they were doing in a time when they won 3 Big Tens. But hey, at least they cheated to get the right guys.
Ryan went to the Purdue camp one year, and they had him play up. He was like 11, and he played with the 13s to 15s, and it went okay for him. But Katie's talking to everybody. Katie's talking to the kids, and he's got the scout, and he's like, "Listen, you don't have to wear Purdue garb here. You can wear whatever you want." And then he goes, "Unless you wear Indiana, that's horse shit. We're not going to have that here. That's horse shit." He's just like he wound himself up into hysteria. But he's the nicest guy in the history. Like, if you called him now, he'd pick up. If I called him now, hello. And if he didn't pick up, he'd call me back. And I think, well, what the hell's he calling me back for? Just a great dude.
I was, before the pandemic, myself, Greg Eifert, and I think Steve Reed, we're going to go out and spend a weekend with him at Myrtle Beach.
Really?
Greg called me. His son, Grady, was playing. And I just, I've always known Greg to a certain degree, not like that, but he's like, "Hey, you, me, Steve Reed, let's go see Coach Keady." And I think we had the weekend set. And then I think COVID hit and, everything gets sideways. But I was the first guy. In fact, this got confirmed with my buddy Billy Parks. I was the first guy that he went in on a home visit. He came in with a guy named Jay Williams and Clarence Glover. And I was already committed to Indiana. And I can still remember, he pulls up with my Little League coach, Dick Nims, comes in my house. And I loved him. Like, I didn't like him.
Yeah.
I loved him. And they leave. And my dad goes, "Man, if you weren't going to Indiana, that's where you'd be going, huh?" I go, "Yeah." He did this one time to me when we were playing. He knew that I kind of disliked.
Well, your guy went there, right?
Yeah, Jimmy Bullock.
Yeah.
So Jimmy goes there, and I'm a senior or junior, whatever year we won. I can never remember which year we won there, but I'm on the court, and he's going batshit crazy. You remember Purdue used to be down, you stand up on the ledge, right? He's going batshit crazy. I mean, batshit crazy. And I'm kind of walking in front of him, not knowing I'm really there, and I kind of look, and Wilmer, you stupid son of a... And he looks at me and he gives me one of these. and he smiled, and I just shook my head. And then after the game, he gave me the greatest compliment I've ever gotten. I think has ever gotten. We win. I think I've told this before. I had 4 fouls in the first half. 4 fouls. Knight's like, "Screw it. You ain't going to make free throws anyway. We're going to keep you in." We were up big. We ended up big at half. Game's over, and I don't think I do nothing, right? I read the paper the next day. Keady says Dockich leads Hoosiers. And then there's an article about my dislike. He knows I don't like Purdue. And he's talking about how my dislike for Purdue bled to every player on the team. I'm like, hey, coach, I love you, baby. But I didn't think I had that kind of influence. But hey, but no, you're right. Keady should be in the Hall of Fame. It's easy to keep him out, though. Didn't win a national championship.
Yeah, no Final Four.
And then go to the Final Four. And it's easy to keep. But I'll tell you this.
5-time National Coach of the Year. 5 times.
There are a lot of coaches. I've always said Roy Williams, Gene Keady, the 2 best that I ever went.
Really?
Yeah. I never coached against them as head coaches. But as an assistant scouting and in a game, Roy Williams was the best. Like Roy Williams, we had great teams. We beat them once. Alan Henderson lost his mind, and we won. But Gene Keady was every bit as good. Maybe Roy won on a higher level, so maybe that's why I put him up there.
Yeah.
But nobody above Gene Keady. Nobody as a coach. No chance.
Opening day coming up tomorrow for baseball.
I got inside information.
Really?
I do.
What's your inside information?
Tucker Barnhart, the catcher for the Cubs, and I text we've been texting about once or twice a week. He's like, love this team. He goes, I'm telling you, we got veterans that are committed. We got some real talent on this team. He goes, look, I don't know what's going to happen, but everybody that's picking us, he didn't get into gambling or anything like that. He goes, they're picking us low. He goes, we're going to surprise a lot of people.
Really?
And he's not normal. I never asked him. He knows I'm a Cub fan, and we were talking about the NCAA tournament. So there you go. That's straight from the catcher's mouth, big boy.
Well, we always got hope.
That's all we got.
That's right.
Do you like the Cubs?
I hate Ricketts. I have a dislike and a lack of respect for Tom Ricketts that has permeated my soul to the point where, like, watching the Cubs, and you can't, I can't because I don't have marquee. I've got YouTube TV. I don't miss it so much because I think he's a lying piece of crap and a profiteer, and he doesn't treat the Cubs, to me, with the respect that they deserve as their owner, so I got no time for him.
I walked up to him and said hello to him.
Did you?
And he knew me, so I like him.
That's all it takes. All right.
No, but you're right.
Yeah.
Look, you're right.
He's a profiteer.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, he's pretty smart, buying all the stuff around Wrigley. How about they control the secondary ticket market? Yeah. That's unbelievable. I guess everybody does it.
Jeff Smullian taught me when he was trying to buy the Nationals, and it didn't, they took the other guy. But he's like, it's not a baseball deal. It's a real estate deal. This is a real estate deal. And I started looking at things differently from that point. And when they sent Crane Kenny out with his checkbook to go start buying the collar properties, I was like, oh, somebody finally figured it out. Well, I have all these other people who live across the street, across Sheffield and Waveland. They make all the money from these. Like,
that's silly.
What are you doing?
That's silly.
So I don't blame him for that. But to take the team that won a World Series and just dismantle it over a couple of shekels, I think was just classic.
I think it was crap. I think it was acting like you are a small market.
Yeah.
And to your point, I've always thought that why don't the Cubs act like a major market? It's why I always like George Steinbrenner. People bitch about George Steinbrenner, but when George Steinbrenner came to the Yankees, that man knew what he had.
Yeah.
I got the Yankees. We're going to act like the Yankees. We're going to spend like the Yankees. We're going to win like the Yankees because this is what the hell we do as the Yankees. And I've always thought to myself, and I think you and I have had these conversations, why aren't the Cubs like Chicago's a big old market.
Yeah.
And they're making, I get it. It used to be there was no advertising in there, blah, 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 blah.
It was very quaint.
Yes. But now you can't swing a dead cat without some kind of LED light telling you to buy douche or something. I don't even know. Seriously.
The Massengill concession is a huge profit center.
Can I tell you why I said that? Because I was watching a Seinfeld episode last night, and it was, is there any Tampax in your drawer, in your cupboard?
I've got a friend who we're in a text chain, the great Paulie Balls,
Yeah.
and these guys from the South Bend Mafia say, hey, I've been dating this girl for 2 weeks. I don't know her name. And I said, it's Mulva. Everything's Seinfeld, right? And then Paulie Balls said, well, he went on with that episode for quite a while, but it's what we do. This is true, Nick Nolte, if you've ever seen Blue Chips, Nick Nolte literally hung out with us. And Nick Nolte, one night, I'm out with Nick Nolte, Ron Shelton, the director, Bill Friedkin, and we're at this Japanese restaurant across from Nick's. And Nolte he was drinking non-alcoholic beer because he's alcoholic. So these guys, we're all drinking beers. And they get going on Nolte. And they're like, Nick, tell him, I forget which wife, tell him how you didn't know the name of your third wife. What'd you call her, Nick? Oh, I called her legs. She had great legs. I go, Nick, you didn't know your wife's name? He goes, nope. He goes, that's how high we all were. That's how stoned we all were. So when you say he doesn't know his wife's name, it brings me to Nick Nolte. Oh, that's funny. He's still around.
Yeah. World's worst mugshot?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
Not even close. There are not many good ones.
No.
But his is, that's a train wreck.
Yeah.
We'll go again at some point.
Yeah, we should
just fire it up and go.
We might have to go Friday.
That's tomorrow. Oh, no, day after tomorrow.
Yeah.
Today's Wednesday.
We may have to set you up,
Let's
go game
go.
by game, and see if anything's happening with the Colts.
We went for more than an hour. This is the longest I've ever been with you without beers.
I know.
So, all right.
Otter Creek, we have to mention you because you were the first guy, girl, I don't know, to pop up last week. Remember we said?
Right.
Otter Creek, every show, you get a mention. Hey, do yourself a favor. Everybody subscribe. We've got to get this to $5,000. Let's just make this a thing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you tomorrow. No, Friday.
Let's do Friday.
All right.
See you.
Thanks for coming.